Oh, I had a question from one of my subs. Was asking if it's possible to play a shuffle in 4. And so I wrote him a response through text, just explaining, kind of the figures and how you would count it. But I said I would also do a video so that he could see how you could count it, depending on what type of shuffle you're playing and that kind of thing. But just the Texas Shuffle, you can start that by just playing. You can play quarter notes on the bass drum or 1 and 3, but you want to start it as and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So that's one that you could easily put in 4. Just because you're playing 4 on the floor, but if you could also just play 1 and 3. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and bass and snare and bass and snare and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Okay, so you could 1 and 3 or quarter notes, but that way you can hear that quarter note pulse underneath it, and then you can count it in 4 like that. Now, getting into more complex shuffles, like a Purdy Shuffle, for instance, those you can consider in a compound meter, okay? Now, if you don't know what a compound meter is, 12/8 is a good example of that. So 12/8 can be counted in 3 different ways, okay? So you can either count 12 notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10, 11, 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Or 2 bars of 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. 2, 2, 2. 4 and 4. 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a. Okay, so that's not the traditional Purdy Shuffle figure, but I'm just showing you how you can count in 12. You can use compound meter of 12/8, and you can count it in those 3 different ways, okay? Now, hardly any of us are going to be counting 12 notes, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 8. It's a mouthful. So it's much easier to either count 2 bars of 6 or count it in 4 as 8th note triplets. 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a. Okay? Now with the Purdy Shuffle, you're playing the triplet figure, but you're playing it as one of them on the as a ghost. Okay? So the Purdy Shuffle. Okay, so even in the Purdy Shuffle, but what you're doing is 1 and a, okay, 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a. So I would just get that down first, and then start to experiment with playing the full ghosts. And what if you'll notice that the way I was counting, what you're doing is accenting on beat 3. Okay, so Bernard is such a, he not only a character but a phenomenal drummer, and the way he describes it too is that within playing his Purdy Shuffle, it considered a halftime shuffle, that you can count him in those multiple ways, and that you're playing 12/8 without even knowing that you're really playing 12/8. That's what happens when you got a music stand with way too much stuff on it. Okay, so just back to the point of the compound meter and counting it in either 4, 6, or 12. So just get familiar with first playing. So then when you count it, you can count it in 4, you can count it in 12, or in 6. But you can play it in 4 and count it in 4. So then it's easier to count that way. Most of the time, that's how people count it. And then it also helps to keep anyone you're playing with more anchored, especially those that don't know, playing compound meters or odd time or even 6, playing in 6. Because there are a lot of players that they're just so used to, Western music, and in Western music, it's, that we call that our common time or our primary pattern, because in Western music, that's what you're usually playing in is 4/4, with 2 and 4 as your backbeat, right? So, but in world music, and especially Latin, Afro-Cuban, and I've had people say, well, Cuban is Latin. Yes, but there are different types. And Afro-Cuban is drastically different than playing standard Latin, okay? So Afro-Cuban comes out of both cultures, of African culture and a Latin culture, or Cuban culture, okay? But Latin, purely Latin, like South American Latin, or even, parts of other parts of Latin America, they usually have a full section where it's like 10 people to create that one pattern, right? So like during Carnival, that's what you'll see is like one guy's playing a clave, one guy's playing a cymbal, one guy's playing the bass drum, one guy's playing the snare, that kind of thing. Timbales, tenor drums, that kind of thing. And then they all come together as a group to form that pattern. Now, us as kit players, we're trying to accomplish the same thing, but with only one person and playing all parts on the drum set, okay? So, just for instance, like a Basa, like... So normally you just have one guy playing... another guy playing the bass drum. That kind of a reoccurring theme, okay? So, and a good one to learn the Basa is what we call the cheater Basa, where the clave, or the cross stick, just comes down on beat 2, and then the and, okay? And instead of playing, you're only playing 1, you're playing 1, 2, and 1, 2, and 1, 1, and 1, 2, and 3, and 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and bass, 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 okay? And that's a good way to get up to the more advanced Basa ways of playing those Basas, or then you're playing... getting to more advanced patterns, because then they start coming in. It's basically a 2-bar pattern where the first bar is the cheater Basa, but then every time thereafter you're playing and 1, and 3, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, and 3, and 1, and 3. Okay? And you can put quarter notes here, but it's a good thing to kind of train yourself to just play 2 and 4 at first, because that will help anchor not only you, but the rest of the band, too, with what you're playing with, okay? So, That's an example of just like a straight Latin kind of thing. Or and then an afro-cuban type of thing in 6, where you could play, you know. That kind of thing, where that would be more of a traditional Afro-Cuban 6/8 type of figure. And a double paradiddle works so great for that. So that's a great way to start getting into the feel of playing in 6, instead of just playing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, like we would do in a lot of like ballads or some jazz. Worship tunes have a lot of worship tunes have that in it. 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, but instead of playing that with playing single strokes and eighth notes, then you can play a double paradiddle. Okay, so just trying to give some, I guess, a little lesson video here before my next student shows. But I wanted to answer his question for him, because it was a great question, and I had the same exact confusion when I was first learning it and how to count it, because I've heard it counted many different ways. But feeling it in 4, that's definitely not only possible, but that's usually the best way to go about figuring those out, because you're just playing, a triplet figure. So say you're playing, I'll do this. I'll play straight 8s with the primary pattern, just 1 and 3 on the bass drum, 2 and 4 on the snare. We call that a primary pattern, right? Because the whole universe of drums expands off that. It's a stacked pattern. But what you can do is you can go back and forth between playing straight 8s and then playing them as a triplet figure in a 12/8 kind of thing, okay? So it's the same thing you're doing on the bass drum and the snare, but instead of playing 1 and 2 and then you start playing 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1. Now I'll go to 8s. And then back to 12/8. I was getting ready to go back into the 8s. Sorry, but that's what you can do with the same thing, is playing eighth notes, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 2 and 4 and 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 12/8. Da 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 da. Okay, so you can hear how it's all you're doing is changing what you're playing up top, but you're basically adding one extra note because you're playing a triplet, right, instead of 2 eighth notes. So instead of 1 and 2, you're playing 1 and a 2. Hopefully that makes sense, okay? 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and 2 and 3, 4. 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 2 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 3 and 4. And then 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a... Then that would be the Purdy Shuffle in 4/4. Counting it in 4. Okay? But, I'd start simple. You don't have to embellish the bass drum yet, or play a 2-bar pattern. That's what I'm doing, as I'm playing. So you can hear bum, boom, ba, ba, boom. Boom, 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 ba. Boom, boom, ba, ba, boom. Boom, 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 ba. Boom, 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 ba, ba, boom. Boom, 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 ba. Boom, boom, ba, ba, boom. Boom, 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 ba. So that's just, making it a little bit more of an embellished bass drum pattern. But just start with the traditional, where you're playing boom, 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 ga, boom, 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 ga, boom, 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 ga, boom, boom. Okay, that'll help you get to then more advanced in a 2-bar pattern with it. All right, guys, I hope that helps. And I appreciate the question and any feedback, and that's kind of my passion is I love sharing anything that anyone has questions about, or if they need feedback on how do you do this, or that kind of thing. If I know the answer, then first of all, if I don't know the answer, I'll be honest with you and I'll tell you I don't know. I'll have to look it up and figure it out myself. But that's what I'll do, is I'll do my own homework so that way what I'm explaining is accurate and isn't going to lead you in the wrong direction, okay? Now, if I do know how to explain it, then I will go right ahead and try to do my best by that. And I don't mean to confuse you if, it's like, wait, you're counting in 12, then you're counting in 6, then you're counting in 4, It's only because 12/8 is a compound meter where 4 fits into it, 6 fits into it, and 12 fits into it, okay? Because if you think about it this way, you're having four beats worth of triplets in 4/4, okay? 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a, okay? So just triplets, just counting your triplets. But I know it can be a little confusing if you're not used to what compound meters are, or that you can count the same thing multiple different ways. But 12/8 is so cool because, it's such a foundational meter and grooves that come out of it, because it even predates jazz, blues, a lot of that stuff, where they were using those patterns, back in the day for more like, 30s actually, 30s, 40s, 50s music, that kind of stuff. And then also then applied it into the jazz world. So it actually is really cool because it predates and is the foundation for a lot of other things that have come out of that compound meter. So if you have a song that you want to be able to kind of switch back and forth between how you're counting it or figures that will all still fit in the same meter, 12/8 is just great for that. Just great for that, okay? Because you can play, just like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, boom, 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 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Or you can put the bass drum on different figures too. So and in a shuffle feel too. But my point being that you can count it in multiple different ways. If you have something that you want to play that fits into 6, then you can fit that into 4 just by the way you're counting it and playing triplets instead of straight 8s. Okay? So, and that's what a lot of the shuffles are based off of. Just the Texas Shuffle, is the simplest one and one that I would highly recommend getting started with first, because that will lead you then to the more complex ones. And like Jeff Porcaro Shuffle on Rosanna and Purdy Shuffle, all those things. But they give credit to Bernard Purdy because he's the one that came up with that groove, and then other people have just kind of modified it to fit in certain songs. So even Jeff Porcaro, explains it that way. So it's really cool that we can kind of share the information together and all that. But I won't lie to you, the Rosanna Shuffle and the Purdy Shuffle are a bit challenging. But if you approach it slow, you count it correctly, and you know where the individual beat placements go, then it's not hard. It's just new. That's how I explain it to my students. Is like, Well, yeah, it's hard, but only because it's new to you. So once you just get the hang of it and practice it for a couple weeks, then it will come together. It will come together. So believe in yourself, count it the right way, practice nice and slow and nice and relaxed and articulate so that your body understands what you're trying to tell it to do, and then you just speed up that motion, okay? Because instead of just playing da 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 da, now you're playing. And then accenting on beat 3. And then you can add double ghosts to it too. So instead of just playing single, like a triplet figure, then you can add playing more of a closed stroke roll for your ghosts. See, I'm doing that instead of now. Then you can just keep embellishing and expanding from there. All right, guys. Hope that helps. And happy drumming to everyone. Love you. And I hope that helps you, buddy. So, yes, you can play them in 4. Start with the Texas Shuffle. And 1, and 2, and 3, and 4. And bass, 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 bass. 1, and 2, and 3, and 4. And 1, and 2, and 3, and 4. And 1, and 2, and 3, and 4. That's a good way to start that one in 4/4. And then thinking of 12/8 compound meter and counting it that way. 2, 3, and a 4.